thanks all of you for being here. And nice to meet you like virtually, but at least face to face and not only by email. And yeah, and I hope we can meet again soon next year, perhaps in person instead of only online. So yeah, have a nice chat and talk a bit later. I will tell you later. Bye.
Oh, it's great to be here virtually. I was in Barcelona last year, and this is how I learned about Loop and about professional meetings. I am an independent curator and a museum specialist based in Milan for the past years, but now currently present in Baku, my home city in Azerbaijan. And together with friends, I'm working on a project called Tardino 6, which is a self-organized initiative to promote artists from Azerbaijan. And we were planning to open a space, a permanent space in Baku, which unfortunately is now postponed for the next year.
Okay, thank you for attending our invitation. And I think Maria, we met last year, I think. Maria Solé, I think we met when we were free 1 year ago.
Yeah, right? Exactly, we did. Yeah, so I'm Maria Solé. I'm from here in Barcelona, but I'm an architect, and I'm managing the office of big Ingels group here in Barcelona that we opened recently. Yes, and I had the pleasure to assist to the past edition of this same talk with Leandro, and I'm very glad to follow up what's going on 1 year after.
Yeah, the year went very quick. Many things happened in this year, but also went very quick. And maybe, Esteban, would you like to say something about your organization, Contorno Urbano?
Hello, my name is Esteban. We are a non-profit foundation outside Barcelona in a city called L'Hospitalet de Llobregat. We work mostly with muralism and architecture in the public space, but with a communitary point of view. We work a lot with schools, neighbors, a lot of other non-profits from local to design and produce mostly all of our projects. So we are like urban art, architecture, and everything, but super focused in community and co-design with the people of the place that we are working on. So yeah, mostly this is a brief resume.
Okay, thank you. And now our two partners from A Place, which is Petra, and maybe Petra, you want to say something also about yourself and Alive Architecture?
Hello, so my name is Petra. I founded Alive Architecture, a socio-spatial practice here in Brussels. We work on urban transformations related always to social, always to creativity, sometimes to art, in order to generate, let's say, inclusive urban transformation here in the capital of Europe. Thank you.
Thank you. And now we also have Maša. Maša is from ProstoRož. He's also one of the partners in A Place in Slovenia.
Hi, yes. So ProstoRož, I'm also one of the co-founders. ProstoRož exists since 2004. So we started with actions in public space, actually how to make this the people aware of these public spaces that exist, and later on involving more people and communities, testing some I don't know, urbanism or how like urban tactics. So with some temporary interventions, testing longer term interventions.
Okay, thank you. Well, myself, my name is Leandro Madrazo. I'm a professor in the School of Architecture La Salle. I'm the coordinator of the A Place project, and I have been collaborating with Loop Festival in the last 5-6 years with the School of Architecture. With our students, we have been using video as a tool for analyzing and representing public space in collaboration with residents. And this program, in a way, which was called Unidad Móvil de Video Arquitectura, mobile unit of architecture and video, was in a way, the beginning of this place project. And then we wanted to continue this collaboration with Loop, and then we searched for other partners and proposed this project that at the end was approved. So, well, we have, I have, let's say I don't know how much time we have actually, if this session will close automatically or not, but I guess that we want to be, before the lockdown, we want to be home. Well, actually we're home already, but so let's try to make it in a way. I mean, we want to be here to get the feedback from our guests. I mean, we all, the three of us, know what we have done. So we have prepared some very short presentations, 3 of them. I will start with a general view of what we have done in this year. Then Petra and Maša has prepared also a 10-minute presentation about their placemaking activities in Brussels and Ljubljana. So I would suggest that I start with this 10-minute presentation, which is an overview, also the work of other partners. And I would continue with maybe Maša, and Maša can continue with the presentation, focusing on the activities in Ljubljana, which I did not include in my presentation. And then I would suggest that we make open the floor and get the reactions or the questions from our 3 guests. And then at the end, after this dialogue, we continue with the presentation of Petra, and then again some open questions at the end, if you agree on that. If we go more or less on time, I guess that in 1.5 hours or something like that should be okay, if we're still here, if everybody has the time. So I will start with my presentation here, sharing the screen, if this is possible, just to give you an overview of what we have done in this complicated year. So yeah, 1 year ago, and Maria Solé was here, we were presenting also in the Loop, this professional meeting. We just started the project 1 year ago. We had nothing to show except our intentions. Now we have, I think, produced quite a lot of work in this year, in spite of the difficulties. So we have something to show. The objectives of the project, for those who are not familiar with, are summarized here, is to design and implement art center placemaking activities in a network of 6 European cities: Barcelona, Bologna, Brussels, Lisbon, Ljubljana, and Nicosia. We want to connect meanings and experiences associated to places across cultural and geographic boundaries. So the idea of multiple places, the idea of global places, network of places is very important in this project. And we want to involve residents and also other population in collaboration with artists, also educational staff, teachers in architecture schools, art schools, in these activities. So the idea graphically represented, and this was part of the proposal that we presented to the Creative Europe program, is just to create this network of places, locations, meanings, people also. That was the idea, of course. Now the connections, physical connections and exchanges, as you can imagine, has been impossible in this period. So the website, which we did not have 1 year ago, now we have a website which is, I think, becoming interesting in terms of content. We are still working on this idea of networking the different contents. It's not implemented yet, but it will be in a couple of months. But nevertheless, there's a lot of contents that are available online since already some months. So we have done in this year a series of placemaking activities, always with this syntax of account place, hidden place. This underline that is in the logo of a place is replaced by a concrete action, a concrete term, in order to define what we do in every place. And following this syntax, we have done all of these activities. And the last one, a confined place, was not in our program. Indeed, has been improvised as a result of the situation in order to adapt the project to the restrictions, a confined place. Let's start with a confined place, what we did. Confined place was done in the springtime. It was an initiative of the School of Architecture La Salle. We invited other partners to participate. We were all enclosed, students and teachers, so all our teaching was done online. It was impossible to go to the streets in that time, in March, April, here in Barcelona. So we proposed to reflect about the feeling of being enclosed and how we perceive the confined space, the domestic space and also the public space, looking outside through the windows or through the intermediate spaces. All of these perceptions of the confined spaces, we put them in a blog, which is available here. It's a public blog. And what students did, and it was our students, but also students from the Universidade Nova de Lisboa also participated, and also from Ljubljana, one student. It was very, I think, exciting to see how people were reflecting with words and images about the situation that we all were sharing, teachers, students from different countries. So it was a shared place, a global place, an unexpected global place that we all were experiencing the same situation and sharing our feelings, our perceptions. Of course, it was a very intensive period, a very also emotional period for many people. So the images and the sentences from students are, I think, very valuable, a reflection of that period, of that time that we were sharing, all of us, around the globe. And there were many situations that were repeated everywhere. The balconies, the people clapping in the windows. That was a universal phenomenon. There were the house, the dwellings converted into something else, into a design studio, into a practice studio, into a dance studio, into a gym. People working, people doing everything that normally they do in other places was done at home. And these are photographs from students and reflections from students. So we also did an open call inviting artists to reflect with any kind of media. There was an online competition. We call open call a confined place. We got like 100 entries from, I don't remember how many countries around the world, 20, 30. And they were in all kind of media. There were many videos, but also photography, also graphics. We then make a selection and gave 6 prizes. And we awarded 6 prizes in about 2 topics, a rediscovered place and a reimagined place. This was posted on the Facebook, on the web, and it was a very, I think, very positive experience. It was very well received, and we were very happy with the results. So then the other placemaking activity, a which place, this one was planned to take place in Hospitalet. It was supposed to be mainly rooted in the physical space and the social territory. The hypothesis, our hypothesis when we started this program 1 year ago, was that L'Hospitalet, which is a city, which is part of the metropolitan area of Barcelona, actually the boundaries between one and the other are very difficult to distinguish sometimes. It's a fragmented city. That was our hypothesis. It's a city made of fragments, fragments in the physical sense and fragments in the social sense. There's a strong division between different parts because of the historical evolution of the city, also because of the territory and the infrastructures that are crossing the territory. So based on this hypothesis, we developed a program of activities to connect these fragments socially and also with placemaking activities in the physical space. That was our idea, but it could not be taking place because of the confinement. And what we did instead was a visual analysis of the territory using Google Maps. So our students were visiting, so to speak, the city in Google Maps. We were discussing with them what they found, the qualities of the spaces, the representative buildings, the typologies, the connections between spaces. There were things that could be discussed, nevertheless, and that's what we did in our teaching. And students were collecting these images, and then they published them in a blog again, which is a public blog like this one. Our students also address the stakeholders in the city, civic organizations, civic leaders. They contacted some of them, and they organized focus groups, interviews, group interviews, and the results are also posted in the web. One of them is this one, this interview with 3 of the representatives. Also, Esteban was actually one of them who participated in this interview, Esteban Marín. Then we did, in our team, in the teachers in the school, we did, based on these interviews, we did 5 short videos of 1 minute to trigger a discussion in the city. These videos were disseminated through Instagram, through Twitter, and so on. And just to, in a way, invite people to respond or to reflect about questions like, what is the center of the city? And together with the video at the end, there is, because there is still online, an online questionnaire where people are invited to answer with a few questions about what they think about what is the center of the city, if the public spaces are facilitating social interaction. There are only 5 of these very short videos. Then a delicious place was then organized by the group Urban Gorillas in Nicosia in September, and also was an adaptation to the constrained conditions. The topic was food, and food in all the cycle of producing, sharing, cooking, recycling. There were a series of topics within the festival of Paimakli, and this was part of that. And these activities were done with the collaboration also of other partners who sent to this festival as a kind of contribution, different videos about how food is processed in Brussels or in Barcelona and other places. These activities in Paimakli also included activities inside the domestic spaces, but also outside, with construction to hold these plants, and also stages to project videos. The videos that they were submitted by the partners that were projected here in this square in front of the church. Then a sound place was organized by our colleagues of Universidade Nova de Lisboa, and this was a concert that originally was planned to be in Martin Moritz Square in Lisbon. And again, the restrictions did not allow to make this concert in a public space. The pieces were composed by students and based on the sounds of the neighborhood. And then these pieces were played by these 2 cello players. And it's a very well visited video. It's a very nice, actually very nice pieces. Unfortunately, it was not possible to play them in the public space, but still we hope to do it sometime. And finally, there are the video productions, which is, these are under the leadership of Loop. And there have been 2 commissions this year. One of them is, it was an open call, again, a competition that we awarded the first prize to the group, to the collective Cimafrai, which is based on Bologna, and their project La Città Dentro, the city within. And this is going to be actually, the snake preview is going to be within the Loop Festival. It's a wonderful piece about migrants living in Bologna, the feeling of place for people with, in this case, sight difficulties. And also the second video is from a group here from Barcelona, from L'Hospitalet, from Sight Sites. It was a commission also done by Loop. And the video is already online in Vimeo. It will be presented on this Saturday as part of the Loop Festival also. And there will be a roundtable afterwards. It's about perceiving, it's the first of 3 videos, and the idea is how to approach the city of L'Hospitalet from a different perspective, in this case, from the contrast with the relationship of nature. The idea is to make a walk through from the mountain to the sea, to the coast, trying to discover this original relationship of the city to the territory. It's a kind of poetic approach to the city. So this is the summary, very compressed summary of what we have done in this year. There are more things, more detailed things, but this is basically the summary. So I would like to ask Maša if you could please continue now focusing on one of the placemaking activities, which is a hidden place. It's a forgotten lot in Ljubljana, and ProstoRož and the University of Ljubljana, the Faculty of Architecture, have been collaborating in this activity.
Leandro said already, our project is about one non-place because it is a construction site which is one of the biggest, one of the oldest. It's 25 years old and located almost in the city center of Ljubljana, and also it is like publicly or mostly exposed because of the condition of it is just the different political interest. So for us, it was very interesting that talking to the people living around, they never had the chance to enter the site. So this place really didn't exist for them until now, when we at least partially open it to the public. So before it used to be a military zone, and after demolishing these buildings, the owner started digging the gravel. And that was the reason why this whole site became dangerous to approach, and also the reason why it was fenced. So last year, Trajna Collective, it's an organization dealing with invasive plants in connection to sustainable design. They were searching for a place where they could establish like a kind of a center for experimenting, for production, and for education on these topics. So they invited us to help them constructing this mobile infrastructure. So because it was going on at the same time, we saw the opportunity to connect it to a hidden place, so to a place project, to involve students, and to have the opportunity to work more also with the community. So we signed a contract with the owner, and we have the chance to use the plot for the next 2 years, or until the construction of the Justice Palace, which will be constructed once on this site starts. So the students, the plan was that we go on site with the whole group, but again, due to the COVID restrictions, because also the workshop was going on from March till May, we could not go there together, but the students were encouraged to go there on their own and to reflect their observations. So it was obvious also from these pictures that that their impression was how closed the site and fenced, unapproachable the site was. So besides this site analysis, they also did the historical analysis and user analysis. And the whole process was followed also by the lectures of the people who were involved in the project. So Trajna organization and the future or potential users of the place, so the people who will get involved in this educational center. So the students also made the interviews with them, and on the basis of these interviews, they could extract what are the needs of the place and what's their view on the place. So most of the people saw it as that this place should be kept as green as possible, so in such a condition as it is. And that there was a need for free production spaces, that is a wood workshop, a paper making workshop, mushroom workshop, some community spaces, some services, so on. So these were somehow the outputs on which students created their own proposals. So they created concepts and ideas about the whole place, and they called them, again with this place, a converging place, a connecting place, growing place, etc. So they had to take into account all the needs, all the materials. So yeah, materials, then the costs, the whole process, how in which phases the place will be constructed, and always keeping in mind this basic idea of this community, that which is the sustainability and the synergy with the nature. And then they had to elaborate one of the elements from their project into details, because the original plan was that one of these elements will be constructed together with students on site. But again, due to restrictions, we could not do that. So we had to modify this activity into like a competition, student competition. They were invited to make an artistic intervention, which would call or which would communicate this inner world to the outer world. And again, keeping in mind all these ideas about the project and also the main ideas their own project had. And again, cost efficiency, sustainability, etc. So yeah, this process was presented at the end on the exhibition of the Faculty of Architecture. It usually was in a physical form on the faculty, but this year it was not possible to do it, so they did it virtually, but in such a way it was also more accessible, it was more widely accessible. So when I'm asking myself if that was a placemaking as we did, I would say actually that it was maybe the first phase, which is also very important. They prepared everything for this community, which started working on site during the summer. And unfortunately, students could not join them anymore because most of them left Ljubljana after the end of the school or even before. So we also showed this process partially through a movie which we presented in Nicosia. So we were supposed to go on a joint activity to Nicosia on a festival in July, but since that was not possible, they invited all the partners to join with creating this video about the communities they work, about maybe, if possible, migrant topics, and also about the food, because the topic of the festival was food. We showed in the video how this place was transforming from this space to a place involving people, but not only people, because what I really liked about these ideas that came out were that there is always a need to find a synergy between not only people, but also with other living creatures on site. So for example, now they use, instead of, I don't know, they use these invasive plants for cleaning the water, or they brought a sanctuary for a fish, and the fish is fed by plants living in the water, and the fish eats mosquitoes. So we are protected because of the fish. So everything seems much more connected in a way. And on the other side, in this movie, we also showed the process of community work, and after making a dinner with burek from Japanese, made from Japanese knotweed. And burek is imported, but well appreciated food, which was brought to Slovenia by migrants from Bosnia. So in such a way, we also wanted to somehow show these advantages of cultural assimilations. And on the other hand, we also wanted to show what we have in our hands. So for example, how do we, what's our relation to a place or to some extruder? For example, we can just ignore them, or we can involve them in a process, or we can and find the synergies between each other. So that is also what I'm questioning. For example, as a placemakers, what's our position in creating places, and what is are we in this are we in position to say who can participate, or what can be involved, or who cannot be involved, and can we like look wider if we are making places only for people, or can we also involve the whole ecosystem, so involving more, creating place also for other animals and plants. So thank you.
Okay, thank you, Maša. I think you could maybe open now the floor and see if some reactions from our guests, questions or suggestions, whatever. All of this work related to also your own experience, because some of you maybe are very familiar with these topics, other people see it more from outside. But in any case, we'd like to know your reactions, if any. So, for example, let's start maybe with Esteban. Would you like to make any reflection, continuing with the comments from Maša about what is placemaking, who should be involved? Because I think your experience within Contorno Urbano is touching many of these issues as well.
Yeah. First, I share a link in the chat about a similar project that we are doing right now. That I think. First thing, I really love the Lenka project. I am in a similar project right now, and I see myself really reflect in all the process and in a lot of the questions that especially about participation and the ecosystem. In our case, the first thing that we did with this project is they create a committee of non-profits, organization for the neighborhood, neighbors, of course, educational centers, everyone. We didn't put a hold in who can participate or who can't participate in the project. Like, everyone was invited. This process started 1.5 years ago, more or less, and right now, the community that are participating in the project is really strong. We have like 8 educational centers, all from the area, like 10-minute walking from the place. It was an abandoned lot, also property of the city council. In a really similar project in a way, and in the ecosystem, well, we don't have a lot of nature there. Mostly some trees, some wild flowers and everything. We are building some insect hotels. We are building some refugee for the street cats that live in the lot, but not everything, not too much, because we don't have a lot of things going on in that area in the lot right now, at least. We're trying to promote it, but right now it's not. It's mostly empty in all the senses. I don't know if you can see the project, yeah, in the chat. Yeah. So yes. Okay,
thank you. I would like to ask Maria Solé, what does placemaking for you, coming from a perspective of architectural practice, means or implications has also for you, the term placemaking? What is the meaning you would give to this term from your perspective, Maria?
I think maybe like, I think, of course, from the architecture perspective, we always are thinking about, the physical component about, like, like for a placemaking, we always think about a place in a physical context. But now, like, listening to your presentation and how you've been able to, like, manage to keep on doing these placemaking exercises without a place, really, without a physical space. I'm kind of also like questioning, if there's also like this sort of like virtual placemaking, because somehow you've been doing that, right? So that's just like, is maybe not responding to your question, but it's the reflection that I was having in my head. Is like, you've managed to like, this sort of like placemaking when everyone is confined, that is like this sort of global space in a way that we all share. And of course, everyone has its own personal experience of it, and there is this sort of like domestic placemaking, so something that I've that probably you've also shared with all these like infinite Zoom calls, is how people is transforming their houses to make them a different place than where they were, right? You have to make this sort of like place making within your usual context. So something that I'm questioning these days is like, you know, if this, usually we think about place making in the context of public space, you know, in a shared space. But then suddenly now through these like video conferences, you know, our houses are somehow also like a shared space. And everyone, you see how people also change the backgrounds. There's all this kind of like virtual space making, place making that I'm quite curious about. But I mean, maybe going back more to what you were presenting and the project, you know, in Ljubljana, like I think definitely when we are making a place, the most important thing is the communities around it, the people that make. In my mind, what makes a place is not so much the physical environment that gives you some conditions and an environment, but in the end, what makes a place is like the people, the synergies that you create, and you know, and what does invite and all of the unexpected and all these sort of like soft city type of elements that are not so much like the hardscape. Of course, the hardscape and how you design space influences, you know, how it's perceived, and you can design a place that is more inviting than other. But something that maybe we've also seen here, for instance, in the super blocks or in these public spaces that people colonize, the ones that are a bit more undefined, they engage more with the citizens because somehow it's still not a finished space, a fully designed place. And people can still bring something to it, right? And there's room for them to create and make it their own. And some of the spaces, I think that they're too designed and too completed, or that there's only, they're overly designed, that is just one way of using it. Maybe they're less inviting. So yes, I think it's good to not plan, I think in my mind, too much, you know, let people improvise and make the places their own. And then you, as a designer yourself, you're not going to do the placemaking. The placemaking is going to be end up doing by everyone else using that place.
Yeah, we can read sometimes that placemaking is a way to fix, to amend the errors of designers. Whatever is not working in public space, then comes the placemaker and makes it work with the people and so on. Do you agree with that, Maria, that placemaking is a way to fix errors from professional designers?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think when you have not engaged the community around the place to design that space, most likely you're gonna miss out things, you know, like, I don't know, like for instance, we did this project in Copenhagen that is called Superkillen. It's a park it's this long public space in one of the most diverse, culturally diverse neighborhoods in Copenhagen. And when we did there, it's like, okay, you know, how can we bring together all these people, and how can we make a project, a public space that they all feel, you know, part of theirs. So we asked all of them that they would tell us what is their favorite urban street furniture from their home countries, and then submit it. And then like they all like send us like, you know, all kind of different like urban furniture. And then of course we made this curation and then we made the park with all these elements. And it's a super successful park where you have all these different races, religions, and people coming together and playing and enjoying of each other's culture. So that's been very, very successful. But yeah, I think like especially in places where the context is very diverse, you definitely need to count with the community to design. Otherwise, yeah, it's going to be a failure.
Okay, thank you. What about Asli? What is your view as a curator from all of this kind of work we try to do here about placemaking and the situation also with the confinement, how we adapt to the situation?
Well, I was very impressed by all 3 projects that you presented. And I checked also the website that Esteban shared. personally, to me, and I will be speaking from the context of my background as well as a place I'm currently living in Baku. Unfortunately, the idea of placemaking is very new for this part of the world. People are usually not asked. They are just kind of have to meet the proposals or projects that architects have designed and the decision makers have agreed on. And right now, for the past few years, I mean, maybe for the past 2 decades, when we got our independence, there is like the capital looks very diverse, but not in a good sense, because there is no dialogue between different parts of the city and its architecture. It's eclectic, but there is very little space for human being to live there and to experience the comfort of the cities. Also, currently I'm reading Joan Tronto's book on caring democracy, and there in her first chapter or introduction, she tackles the idea of home and how the concept of home has been changing, and now also with the idea of confinement, home becomes and gets a different meaning for us. It becomes sometimes less comfortable because we have to stay here for hours, days, weeks, whereas in public places, there is the whole trend of making them community engaging and more comfortable. We also look at retail, which is also tries to expand your time spending in a shop or in a library or in a bookstore. So here we kind of have like in my opinion, change of what becomes public, what becomes private, and how people could contribute into co-design or co-development and cohabitation. I would love to experience something similar personally, but observing it remotely, it's bravo to all.
Yeah, thank you. I would like to continue with this situation with the confinement and something that Maria was also pointing out, the fact that our domestic spaces have become, in a way, visible, and almost the boundary between private and public is questioned in this context, right? Because we have exposed our domestic spaces, we have transformed them. In a way, it's like if the domestic through the virtual media has become public, in a way that we are creating new kind of places. An example is this conference now here. So this has been experienced many times. So the idea of place making in a way can be extended in a way from the domestic to the public through the virtual channels. Is that what I understood from Maria? Is that what you were trying to say, Maria?
Yeah, exactly, right. That there is this the boundary between private and public. It's definitely very different. No, like also like, you know, for instance, like when you meet in an office, right? It's a sort of like somehow a public space, but suddenly, no, the meetings are like in each one, no, in its own private space. So it's definitely a new place, right? A new it's very related. But I think, yeah, like the virtual space as a place, I think is also something that should definitely be studied, right? Like place making in the virtual space, but that goes beyond just changing these stupid Zoom backgrounds or things that are available, right? But there's something about, you know, how you make that virtual space that we share like a place.
Yeah, something that we have experienced also in this time is that we have learned how to dwell in a different way by transforming our domestic spaces into workplaces, into places to do gym or to do other kind of things, to rediscover the kitchen, to rediscover the bedroom, and things like that. In a way, we have, in an active manner, exploited our capacity to dwell in ways that we normally did not do in the past when we were in the normal life doing the normal things in our normal spaces. At the moment that nothing is normal anymore, we rediscover our domestic spaces. Can we call also placemaking what we do by reinventing the way we are dwelling in a way? Is placemaking only public or related to public spaces, or what we have done now in this period, reinventing our homes, is also placemaking?
I absolutely think it's placemaking. But maybe it would be nice to hear from everyone else. But yeah, for me it is definitely, yeah, it's definitely placemaking.
So what do you think, Petra? Is also changing domestic spaces is also placemaking, or is only what happens in the public squares?
No, I think it can be in the domestic, absolutely, because the example of urban guerrillas showed it, how they are actually generating encounter of people from communities in the domestic place. So for me, it can be in the domestic. It's just about engaging with others, with other cultures, which makes that it is placemaking and always related to space. And I don't believe that the virtual is totally out of space, because what you can see is people and space, so it can become very spatial. But the space and the people and the community is always the base, according to me, within placemaking.
So placemaking is related to community, building community, is not an individual experience.
No, for me, the two are related. It's really the space, the socio-spatial, which is kind of a bit our expertise as architects and said people, very related to community. It's this kind of interesting space, according to me, between space and social. It's really where both of them, they meet each other.
Yeah. I have another issue that I would like to raise here, and it's about the difference between the concept of place and the concept of placemaking. In a way, if we consider the place is a social construction, it's always on the making, it's always on the transformation. So in a way, the two words are kind of redundant, or not. Place is always placemaking. It cannot be something static, or it's something always related to community building, to the experience of time, to change. So place in itself, it's already placemaking. So do we need the making in the word placemaking, or it's kind of redundant?
Leandro, I really like the reflection. I never thought about it like this, but indeed, I believe that once you take off the change of space over time, it's not anymore place. So indeed, can you make a difference between place and placemaking? I think it's a good point. Yeah.
I would say, yeah. No, yeah, maybe just when it is organized, it is placemaking, but it's not necessarily organized. A place can also create spontaneously, and well, I don't know if you call that a placemaking, yeah, or maybe yeah. Okay, not sure.
Could be that in the past, let's say in the vernacular cultures, places were made all the time. People were adapting their housing to the landscape. They were exploiting the resources, and they were not aware that they were building places, but they were doing that. Maybe we need the term at the moment that we become self-conscious about the fact that we are not building places anymore in the modern cities that are all the same, that they don't really create bonds or ties between people and spaces. And at that moment, we need the concept placemaking to say that we are going to do that before we were doing unconsciously. Now we are going to do it on purpose.
I think it's more like sort of like that discipline is what you're saying, right? Like when you're trying to apply placemaking strategies, you apply to spaces that are not places anymore, right? That they are like completely like don't have any soul, don't have anything, right? And then we have to come and add that, you know, have that strategy and then implement those placemaking strategies to really make it become something. So that's maybe probably the difference that would make. You know, one thing is a place, and then placemaking is more like as a tool or as a strategy to actually turn a space into a place.
Because the experience, for example, what Contorno Urbano is doing in Hospitalet, something I would like to raise between the work of Contorno Urbano, Esteban, and ProstoRož. We see many patterns, now using the language of Christopher Alexander. Patterns means repeated strategies in a way by all of these groups like yours that are always involved with community and trying to recover and activate spaces that are forgotten. And both of you are now working in similar sites. Do you think that groups like yours, like Contorno Urbano, like ProstoRož, in a way, globally, they are using the same kind of pattern language, in a way they are repeating the same strategies, having the same objectives, recovering the ties with people on the place, the memory of the places, and even similar strategies like food and ephemeral constructions, recycling. It seems to me when I look now from outside that all of you are repeating the same kind of language in a way.
Yes, for me, the thing about placemaking for me, I'm coming from a more artistic background. I'm not an architect. Some people that work with me in the team are architects, but I am in fact a graffiti writer. So I started painting graffiti and making altering the city around me at a really young age, like 14 years. I'm 34 now, so 20 years of my life I've been illegally and crossing some lines and around me, modifying the city. But the thing is, for me, modifying my surroundings was really natural. But with the people that we work with, the community, with neighbors, kids, etc., it's sometimes it's like a barrier that they think that they can't modify their surrounds. They can't act over their neighborhoods, their streets, to bettering, of course, but they sometimes, like, I don't know, it's like a mental barrier that they can't touch anything, they can't decide, they can't do anything to improve or change their city. I don't know, I always tell that I am, as a graffiti writer, it's easy for me to alter the city, but sometimes a lot of our work, it's to teach the people that they can participate, they can decide, co-design, and intervene in the city. And this is a big part of our work, because it really empowers the people, especially in some neighborhoods. Always, of course, we act with like some sort of a plan, or sort of a, I share also, yeah, some link, but yes, I see really reflect myself in the work of Alenka and a lot of other projects that are happening right now in Europe, and especially also in South America. That is like another thing going on. Yeah.
So Maša, for you, placemaking is also very much related to educating, forming people. This kind of...
Well, the project I showed, yes, but we also use some other strategies which are not maybe so conducted. So I don't know, just for example, I can shortly present just a project we did in collaboration with municipality, and it was just an open call for citizens to apply with their own ideas. So they created their own spaces. We were not intervening in their processes. So I would say that it's not, I mean, in the same way we were promoting placemaking and educating, but doing it maybe differently.
Okay.
And maybe also, I don't know, yes, I see placemaking in really wide sense. Also, for example, the sound space, the sound place in Lisbon, or whatever kind of events which can also just temporarily expose a certain place, can also do placemaking, because then they just put this place into mentality of the people. So maybe there will be somebody else again thinking about using this space in another manner.
Okay, thank you for this reaction. Maybe we continue now with the presentation of Petra and the work they did in Brussels, A Calm Place, that's the title. And then we close with some reflections at the end. Petra, can you share your screen?
Okay, thank you first of all for all of these nice contributions. Also the website of Esteban, it's a nice discovery. I hope I will be able to share. Voilà, thank you very much. So just as a very short background, we are working on a calm place. So we are responsible for Brussels, to test placemaking in Brussels. We do it together between Alive Architecture and KU Leuven. And here in the background, you see the graphics which we are using as Alive Architecture. We're all the time trying to overcome the deadness of architecture, but to make it alive by connecting space to people. Next. So just one image for the A Place Creative Europe project. The idea is we're all acting in different cities, and then to make a reflection of what is the commonness of the placemaking activities we are creating. Next. So I do a short presentation in 3 chapters, the socio-spatial context in which we are working in Brussels, to afterwards explain our project and to say what is the next step. Next, please. So this is a bit what you have in mind when you see Brussels. People could imagine, the European Union. Next. This is the center of Brussels. So if you don't think of Europe, maybe you think of these beautiful picturesque buildings in Brussels. Next. But the reality of Brussels is actually we are the city around the world with the largest diversity of cultures. A very strong and present culture is the Moroccan culture, the Turkish culture, but in total we really have an extreme variety, but which brings along also a big poverty in the city itself. So here you see an image of Schaerbeek, where we are acting. It's one of the 19 communities in Brussels. Next. And this is the site we chose to work on together with KU Leuven. Why did we choose this site? It's because the school is just next to the site, and because the region of Brussels is spending currently an enormous amount of money, about 8 million euro, in order to integrate the several students of the 4 universities in the district, to embed them within the rather Turkish Moroccan neighborhood of Schaerbeek. And what you see on the right upper side is the garden of the Maison des Arts, a very elite art center. And just in between the two of the public space and the green garden, they're creating the region a student hub. And we try to embed our project within this vision of the region of Brussels to generate a link encounter between the students and the local neighborhood. Next, please. So here you see an axometry of this. On the left-hand side, the Place Saint-Marie, where the church was. It's missing here on the image. On the right-hand side, you see the Maison des Arts in red behind with the garden. And in between them, there's the future student hub, which is going to arrive in order to generate this encounter on a larger period of time, more in a permanent way. Next, please. So, yep, next. Here you see the view towards where the 3 buildings are going to be taken off in order to be transformed into a student hub. Next. And here you see the garden of the Maison des Arts, and they are really not willing to open up this garden to the public, or especially to students, because it would generate much more noise. It would make the space less pure, less elitist, let's say. So what we did is to do a one-day action. It was a lot of preparation. Normally we don't do one-day actions, but we did in collaboration with Renovas, who's representing Schaerbeek, and as such the region of Brussels, in order to try to introduce the placemaking or the encounter between students and local actors in this neighborhood. Next. Here you see the first spot, which was a learn place, which we started at 2 o'clock. Next. Where we intervened with the mobile antenna of Alive Architecture, which is the farm truck, in order to set up a workshop between students and local people. Next. Where they constructed urban furniture. Next, please. Local actors came, the kids came. Here you don't see the typical population of the neighborhood. Next. But also kids came and started to construct some urban furniture together with the student. Next. 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 At 5 o'clock, we did a sensorial walk through the neighborhood in order to sensibilize the participants to the future of the garden of the Maison des Arts, because our intention is that the garden could become a common space, not only for the artists, but also for the neighborhood and the students. But what is important for the Maison des Arts, that it's going to become a calm space, that is not promoted as a space where you do party, but really as a kind of meditative space. In order to promote this, all of the walk through a park and the neighborhood towards this garden was organized as a sensorial walk. Next, please. Where we walked in a line with closed eyes. Next. We were touching materials on the walk. Next. We visited the spaces around, like the church. Next. We then entered the area of the Maison des Arts. Next. In order to do a reflection in the Maison des Arts and to sensibilize students and other participants to this space. And so here you see the intervention in the garden, which was very minimal. The idea was originally to play with the water in the pond, but the water was off at this in this week. So we had to improvise, and everyone was leaving a note of the sensory walk, which they would then leave in the garden to leave a message and to leave a memory. Next. Next. Afterwards, we came back to the entrance of the Maison des Arts, did a reflection with the participants, which were mainly students, about the walk and the experiences they had. Next. And they did drawings, mental maps of the experience. Next, please. Next, please. And what we did in the evening is a mobile place around the farm truck at the entrance of the Maison des Arts. Next. Where there was a local association, so which was organizing food, Turkish food, because we really wanted to attract people from the neighborhood who did the cooking around the farm truck, as well as a concert you see in the background, which is starting afterwards, also by a local musicians from the neighborhood, with the tea, of course, and Turkish specialities. Next, please. So here you see kind of the final image. It really made a nice ambience. We had to forbid people to enter. It was really a pity. I would say there was maybe 75% of students and 25% of local actors. For the Maison des Arts, it was an amazing experience because never before inhabitants came to the area, no students. So they were very happy. While they thought in the beginning they are just going to welcome us, they were very fulfilled about the project. But because of COVID, there was a maximum of 50 people. We managed already to have 70 people in, but we then had to really close the door. Voila. And the next step now, as I explained in the introduction already, please, is now to really look at all of these different placemaking activities throughout Europe, and to everyone is preparing a little presentation. We will generate a reflection upon what are the common things, what is different, and what can we extract out of it in order to improve our practice of a place for next year. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Petra, for this presentation. It was very well explained. Thank you. So maybe I would like to ask Asli, what do you think about this kind of work from an artistic perspective?
Well, it actually triggered a memory of me living in Milan and having a very similar garden within walking distance of my home. I live at Porta Venezia, but the garden I'm talking about is just behind the Museum of Modern Art. And for very strange reason, it's it's prohibited for people to enter, although the doors, the gateways are open, and only adults with children are allowed to enter. At least it was back when I was frequenting and lived in Milan. So it's very, to me, I found it, as a person who lives in the neighborhood, I found it really strange that I cannot be or go there, take my book. And so I was wondering, when developing this project with Maison des Arts, do you think that it's something that would be repetitive, something that they would be interested to continue, or maybe because of this COVID and restrictions of number of people, they were more ready to open their doors, because at the end 50 people is not allowed if we think about events and yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting question, Asli. The Maison des Arts is very interested to get other people in than their art team or art network, but they don't manage to. And we have this problem many times in Brussels, where people would like to engage with the local, and it's always kind of almost the, how do you say, the marketing to say, we work with the local, but no one is really up to invest money into it. It's the big critical issue. Everyone wants to, but then everyone is saying, yeah, we do a participation, we invite the inhabitants, but they don't give any payment. Like what we did in this event in the end is to really pay the local musicians in order to do concert, to pay the local guys to cook the food. And for me, this is something crucial. If we don't talk about economics, when we are talking about sense for placemaking, then we are losing the point. That's my personal point of view, because it's so much related, especially working with marginal people. And we experience this a lot, that there's a lot of idealization about it. And yes, let's do something good for the homeless people. Let's do something good for whomever. But if you really want to engage them, and if you want to make meaningful placemaking together with them, you have to know where is public money flowing, yes.
And for this event, Maison des Arts didn't have, like, you just came in with the project idea, budget, they just were the space, like they just let you in, right?
Yeah, they let us in, but they didn't finance. Huh? Yeah. So what we did is to connect our project to the Living Rennen. It's an event which is organized by the city of Skarbek. We organized it together with them, and within this framework, you can ask for a participative budget. And the participative budget, you cannot use it for time, you cannot use it for anything than materials or real expenses within the framework of the event, which is too often the problem within placemaking activities. Esteban and Maša, they are nicking when I talk about economics and our practice, because they know the problematic. And this is a big topic. It's a big issue because now they were asking us, Renovas, they said this we cannot pay, and this we cannot pay, and this we cannot pay, and this we cannot pay. We took the students for a drink or for a dinner in order to thank them for their work, but they could not pay it because it's not material where you're acting something. And then in the end of the email, they say, yes, but we have money left of your participative budget. Maybe you could do something next week or next month. We're saying, yeah, but all of the money, all of the time which we're investing into the placemaking is so much time we cannot anymore work voluntarily like this. Yeah.
Okay, so to which extent this placemaking it's depending on public money? I mean, how much this connection has become like a standard? Because we see in many cities that actually city councils in a way are supporting very actively certain activities like these ones because of certain interests, social or even political, because it's in their political agenda. To which extent placemaking has become like an extension of the administration managed by third parties? What do you think, Maša?
Well, often it's a problem that, for example, city government would support placemaking activity maybe 1 year, but then it happens that they don't see it as a process. So next year they would see it as a repetition and they stop financing. So I don't know, that is often our experience. And also, yes, it's always a combination. Yeah, you have to be very creative in finding a way how to combine projects that you can do something. Yeah. Yeah.
And what is your experience, Esteban? Is public money in a way absolutely necessary to have these place-making activities alive?
Yeah, the thing about the public money, it's often, at least in our project, is like 40–50% of the total financing, but usually the public administration is like 80% of our problems. So sometimes didn't compensate the amount of money that they apport to the project, to the kind of problems that they generate at the same time. We mostly finance with public money, with subventions, not only from the city council that we are working on, but other bigger administrations, because if you have all the money with only one administration, usually is a problem, at least for us. Getting any money is a problem. In fact, it's like the bigger challenge that we have usually. In the project I show you, this center that we are building, the money is really tight, and we make it barely this year, but it's really difficult to find some kind of financiation from the public administration, depending of the city, of course. But all Hospitalet, you need to know that Hospitalet is like it's not Barcelona in any way possible, and it's not so progressive, and not so open to this kind of interventions. So only this project to happen, it was like a constant fight with the city council, even that they finance like 50% of the total cost of the annual project. But it's like a war every day to accomplish anything with them. Yeah.
Yeah, Maria was mentioning before the superblock in Barcelona. Now in Barcelona, there's a big discussion actually these days about the so-called tactical urbanists. Tactical urbanists and placemaking, in a way, there's some overlapping there because they have similar goals in a way to give back the right to the city, the sense of belonging, the appropriation of the city and the spaces and so on. They share some of the goals, but the strategy is not. The strategy of tactical urbanists, in a way, was outside of the, let's say, public money and public interventions. It was like a kind of claiming in the illegal borders the need to conquer space again. But now we see that public administrations have appropriated the mechanism and also the aesthetics of tactical urbanists. That's what we are seeing in the city of Barcelona. They have painted and they have put temporary constructions to create barriers against the cars, looking like it would have been tactical, let's say, illegal interventions. But they are done by the administration. They have appropriated the aesthetic of tactical urbanists, but nevertheless, it's still public money and a public agenda. What do you think, Maria, about this situation that we are experiencing now here in Barcelona, probably in other cities, about this appropriation of tactical urbanism by public administrations?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, so tactical urbanism originally is more like this sort of guerrilla style, right? That you just like go there, do it, and it's very like spontaneous, but it's a way of like making a statement and then actually change the perception of or use of a place like temporarily, but always with the objective of it becoming permanent, right? And I think the use that the city of Barcelona is doing of it, I think in a way, it's not a guerrilla style, but I think in a way they're also testing. So I think for them is a way of saying, okay, you know, what happens if we, you know, consider the same, this like next to my house, we remove like one car lane and what happens? And I think they're testing a little bit, like trying to, I mean, I don't think so much as they're appropriate the aesthetics, they're just trying to do something with the minimum investment to see if it works. And then if it works, then they will try to do it more permanent. Actually, if you see now, they just launched the super blocks competition, like the green axis and the new they're trying to extend the super blocks in the whole city. And the axes that now they're proposing are the ones that during the confinement, they had actually painted and blocked the cars and all that stuff. So in a way, they've been trying to test this, what happens in those axes, like with spending the minimum amount of money. So in a way, I think it is not exactly, I think the purpose ends up being the same. The process is a bit different, and of course the administration. So they don't have to deal with themselves, so it is legal. But I think it's an interesting way of testing it, because if they don't think it works, they revert it, and it's easy to go back. That it make an investment and change like the section of a street, and then realizing that it doesn't work. So in a way, yeah, I think I kind of agree with the intention. I would, I have many comments about how it is actually executed. Like as a designer, of course, I think there's many ways that they could do it better. But yeah, I think why not? Instead of waiting years and years to make a transformation. And I think, yeah, the Champlet, this grid, it has so many different ways of being reinterpreted and reused and redefined. So I'm up for experimenting with these means, and maybe regardless if it's the administration. The first superblock actually was a tactical urbanism. It was the students of the school that did the first superblock. They went overnight and they put like bags on the lights, on the traffic lights, and they did all this they did it themselves, and it was horrible. Like the neighbors were complaining. It was a huge debate. It was a scandal. But then later on, a year later, everyone wants to have a superblock, being one of them. So yeah.
Okay. So I'm sorry, but I'm reading the chat in parallel because we have 3 minutes, and I'm not sure if we're going to be stopped automatically or not, but I think we have to finish because it's until 8 o'clock from what I read here in the chat. So I just have time to tell you thank you again for being here, for sharing your ideas, and for also, I think it's very important for us to have this reaction outside of the partnership and see if what we do in a way it's understood, or other kind of comments that we have received here. I think they are very useful, and to have this discussion outside our group, I think it's also very important for us. So yes, thank you again. Thank you, Maria. Thank you, Esteban. Thank you, Asli. And thank you, Maša and Petra, for preparing the presentation. And thank you to our hosts and to Andrea for taking care of all of that, and to the Loop Festival. And hopefully we'll meet next year with many more works, hopefully, in physical space, not in virtual space. Hopefully.
Cool. Thanks, Leandro.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks a
very
lot.
much.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. See you in Barcelona.
Bye-bye.
Bye.